Yep.
All right, Andrew, welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you?
Hey, good. Good to be back.
Everybody listening, this is Andrew Malott. He was my first real, you were the first real interview on this podcast.
I was the first guess.
Yeah,
Yep.
the first guest, episode 20 back on April 13th. I just looked it up. So,
Yep.
welcome back for round two. You are episode 100. So, for everyone listening, we're having a little bit of a celebratory episode, having some drinks. Cheers, my friend from afar. And yeah, we're going to get into some fun stuff. But thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah. No. No. This should be fun. I'm glad to be on for your 100th.
Yeah, man, this is sweet. It's funny because I actually listened to our episode, and I listened to it was Corey G's because I had him on again, and it's
Yep.
funny how far it's come. Like I was so fucking nervous the first time I had you on. I remember even though we're best friends, I was like, I don't know, I was so nervous to have somebody on and like interview. So it's funny to listen back now because now it's I don't know, it's just so different.
It is different, and no, you've come a long way. You've taken it far. It's awesome. And if people, if you guys haven't listened to the Corey G podcast with Shane, you guys should, because I mean it's kind of mind blowing on some of the things he's doing and that he has done. It's a good listen.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the new one that just came out?
Yeah. Both
Yeah.
actually. I
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
yeah.
even the
Yeah.
first one with him was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's cool. He's that dude is a high performing man. He just like I mean, the drive and just like all the things he has in the fire at one time is kind of remarkable.
He has his hand in so many things
Yeah. Well, it's
that
funny
you
too.
wouldn't even think.
You wouldn't think of it, number one. And two, I think he to me was the first person I talked to that it was like an unlock, like a light bulb in my head that like you don't have to be this like flashy, you don't have to be this like the rock to be successful type of thing. I guess it's like he's very successful. He's made lots of money, and he's kind of like not that he's quiet because he's very like
He's
I,
low key.
he's low key though. Like you wouldn't unless you knew his story and where he came from, you'd have no idea.
Oh, exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's cool. No, it's sweet.
Interesting story. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, for you and me, I mean, the first thing obviously we talked about getting into was investing. So, for anyone who hasn't listened to your episode, a little background. Andrew really, I mean, would you say it's fair that this year was like the first year you really got in, like really into investing?
Absolutely. Yep. First year I got into it.
So, I mean,
And
it's been,
it was right there at the hit of the coronavirus, right when it first came out in March.
yeah, right, 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 right. So
So the
you were
market had
like,
tanked.
which is hilarious. I mean, in
Yep.
hindsight, for you to like get it, you think about your lifetime and for you to figure it out and be like, yeah, I'm going to get into it right now
Yeah.
is, I mean, that's like once in a lifetime. So cool there, just in general.
What a great time to get in.
Yeah. So you got in at the low in a lot of ways, right? And then, so it's been 8 months of investing. How has it been? Let's give everyone a
Yeah.
little lowdown download from the last one.
Yeah. 8 months. No, it's scary. And I learned a lot of things from you, and what to do and what not to do and kind of what to look for and stuff. And a lot of it, when I do something, I dive in head first. I'm going to give
Yeah.
it my all. I'm going to try and figure it out.
Sure.
And, I just became obsessed over it. So every day, every morning, I would read and read and read and, try to figure out, what are these companies doing and what's going to, what's a smart play, what's something that you need to invest in that's going to make you money and
Yeah.
what's going to make you money in the long term. And I kind of had I guess, a misconception on what you should be doing. I tried to find these big hitters, like
Which
you would
is
try to find.
common, not to cut you off, but that's, I mean, that's like, I think most people that you talk to are trying like I can't tell how many people are always like, Shane, what do you think the next big thing is? And I'm
Like
like,
nobody knows,
I don't look at it that way. I don't, it's
and
such
you
a
can't.
loser's game. Yeah.
I think you're going to lose money that way. Like, yeah, you might get lucky, here and
Sure.
there. Like, there's a couple that I did too that I stumbled upon, like Nikola, for example,
Mm,
or
you told me about that one
Workhorse.
actually. You were
I did,
you
yeah,
told me about both of those. Yeah.
and Workhorse, and I got into those when they were really low, and they exploded, and you can make some good money and stuff off that. But the smarter, better play is long term investments.
Yeah, I'm with
Look
you.
at these companies, and then, well, one thing that I learned too is stick with your stable companies, and don't try to find these one time home run hitters. Because like look at Nikola now.
Yeah.
I think I bought in. It was like $34, and then it's skyrocketing in like a week to like 90.
Yeah,
And
it
and
did.
then look at it now. I think today is at $15.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's pretty much gone all the way back to, yeah, I'll pull it up while we're talking. I think it's super low. I know it went way down. But that's
Yep.
kind of the thing that it's funny. Like a lot of people want to like have I always say people want to have the like story to their friends of like, yo, I got in to so and so like this, like $30, it went to 90. Like instead of thinking like if you put money in now and you hold on to it, especially if you're someone at our age, I mean, you might not unless you need it, but if you don't need it and you just let it grow and you
Exactly.
let it, compound, you're talking you're talking decades that you could be in a company potentially.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one thing too, I've started focusing on these big stable companies. You
Yeah.
know, like I know a lot of people are like Tesla. It's pretty controversial to some people, on whether or not it's a good investment. But man, is it? It just it seems like it is to me.
Yeah.
And you know more about Tesla than I do, but
I- I'm just very bullish on them more than
yeah,
anything. I just think that like you look at any industry and you're always going to have the companies or even leaders who lead it and are the ones who go through all of the doubt and are
yep,
like everyone's shitting on their idea and they're doubting what they're doing. And then quickly when they see some success, you have all these followers, right? It's like
yep,
the whole concept of like the early adopter. In my opinion, is Tesla is like one of the most is going to be one of the most famous like leaders in a category we'll ever see in our lifetime
oh
personally.
yeah,
Like we're starting to see all these other companies and car brands that are coming out with their own versions, and I just think like the quality and the customer focus that they've put on is so different than you'll get out of any major car company. um and I mean their stock price is a little ridiculous. I mean, in all honesty, like the movements it's made almost doesn't make sense. But that's why I mean, I can't tell you how many people I talk to, excuse me, who always are trying to get in and out of Tesla. Like they want to
yeah,
like make money. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I've bought it. I bought my first share of Tesla back in I think 2015, and I've just continued to buy it. Like I just keep buying it. I'm
right.
just sitting on more and more and more. But that's my perspective, and I'm not saying I know anything more than anybody else, but like I'm thinking about our portfolio for decades, and so I'm like I think Tesla's gonna. I think Tesla's so when Tesla, a good example, Tesla when they got up to $1,000 and then split, that was a big deal for a lot of people. Number one, a lot of people made a lot of money, but two, it allowed a lot of newer investors or younger investors to get into it
Yep.
because then it's the share price goes from 100 to I forget what it's split at, but it was a few $100s, and now it's climbing again. I think that's going to continue to happen. Like, and
It will.
so, you know what I mean? Like, if you hold on to it for 3 decades, I bet they'll split 3 or 4 times.
Oh,
So,
it will. Yeah, I
and
bet.
that's what's happened in a lot of companies. Like I know my dad, he worked at Cummins, I worked at Cummins, and he's had them split 3 or 4 times, I think, since he got like stock options back when he was an employee, and has had it split multiple times, and you just hold on to it. And
Right.
again, I mean that's the way I think about it. I think of it like some people think of it like day trading, which is fine. I think of investing as more of another savings account. It's diversifying from cash, and it's money that I'm going to sit on for a long time unless I need
And
it for
that's one
something.
that's one thing I learned from you too. You told me treat it as a savings account.
Yeah.
You know, but is day trading fun and addictive? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
It's
It's kind
hard
of
not to
like
get caught up
gambling,
in.
right?
It is. It is. And but no, I think it's you want to focus on the long term play and what's going to make you money in the long run, and treat it like a savings account. You know.
I think people also lose track of when you say long term. Like I've talked to people in the last couple of days asking just how their year's gone in investing. For people thinking back to February and March, that feels like a year ago, especially in a year like this year when there's been so much craziness going on.
Oh
It's
yeah.
crazy to think like, yeah, I mean, that's only 8 months ago that the COVID pandemic really like hit. You know
Yep.
what I mean? It's kind of
Yep.
wild to think about 8 or 9 months that has gone by, like that's not that long in investing life. You know what I mean? Like that's not that long, but you can already see if you would have just kept money in and continued every couple of weeks when you get paid to put more money in,
Yep.
what that can turn into. And you think about it over 8 or 9 months. If you're someone who's seen that happen, what that can turn into in 20 or 30 years. Like I've never
Oh,
seen that, but I know people who have. And Corey's a good example of someone who bought bigger companies, like you're saying,
yep.
has dividends coming in. Like I got a report from Robinhood the other day, and it was like how much I've made in dividends this year. Not that much, honestly. Like not like a crazy amount, but give it 10 years, 15, 20 years, and I'm continuing to put money in, it's going to turn into real money.
Exactly.
Especially, you know what I mean? And like, that's what he talks about. I mean, he was saying that, at this point, with the amount of money he has put in, he gets a $3,000 to $4,000 dividend, like total check a month. Like
Yeah.
that's, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it's another paycheck.
Exactly.
And so when you get to the age where you need it, yeah, I mean, it's a whole nother income source. I know people who are, you know, grandparents who got in at our age and they live off of it. They make dividend money, and that's how they pay for everything. And on top
Yeah.
of, their 401ks and everything. It's crazy.
It sure would be nice to have when you get older, for
Yeah.
sure. And
Right.
I think now is a great time to get it. I mean, well, I mean, now is better than never, or in the future. Just do it. Just make the leap. It's scary. If you haven't done it, do it.
Well, we talked about before. I mean, it does. I think some people get caught up in the like dollar amount. Like you need to put this huge amount in. It's like you
You
can
don't.
literally put $5 in
That's it.
to get you
No.
going. And you're a good example of this, of someone who we had always talked about it. And then when you got in, you got hooked because you want to like read about the companies you're investing in. You start to pay attention. It's all about paying attention, really.
It is. It is. And nobody knows what the stock market's going to do in all
No.
reality. I mean, you can be educated and look at certain things and kind of, have an educated guess on what's going on, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't think anybody really knows, but you really have to pay attention to certain things that could possibly change, the price and make it fluctuate and all that stuff. But
Right.
and talking to you too, the the moves that the stock market makes, and it's still even to this day. I mean, you told me early on, you're like, it might move 0.2%
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
given
Yeah.
day, but like for some reason here, it seems in the pandemic, I mean, it's moving. It's nothing for it to move 6% in a
Yeah.
day.
Oh, yeah.
All these companies, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first got into it, like right after college, 2014 was when I like heavily got into it. Yeah. I mean, it was, if any of the like major indexes moved a percentage point or two, it was like a big day. That was like, and if an individual stock moved more than like one or two, that was like a big day,
And
which
they're
is so
doing
funny.
huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy to think too. I mean, that's where day trading this year, there's got to be so many people who have made some crazy money. I mean, I don't know. There's a guy I had on named Scott Bennett. Shout out to Scott if he's listening to this. He's someone, I mean, interesting for anyone to listen to, but you too. He has like a newsletter. He worked at Fidelity for, I think it was like 20 years, quit to do his own thing now. And he essentially, what he's doing is he's scraping the internet on a lot of these investment sites, and he's finding stocks that hedge fund managers are purchasing. And so he's like consolidating all this data that's basically being like, hedge fund A has over the last 3 months bought, all of these shares of this company spread out. And they have to do that in order to not, manipulate the price too much. So he like starts to see this pattern of like, people like you or me, we can't buy enough to like impact anything. But these hedge funds who have, millions, if not billions of dollars worth of funds they're managing can actually move the needle on a stock price. And so he's like getting ahead of it and sharing it out with people. It's a really cool concept that
Smart.
I don't know anyone else is doing it. I don't know the full, scope of how he does it, but it's a really cool thing. I mean, anyone who wants to listen or follow along with that, you can see what the episode he was on. He shares, I have all the links to that. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. Well, so I guess to kind of like circle back, what has been, big winners, big losers as far as like investing this year for you? Like what have been some standouts as far as like who you've invested in and lessons learned? I think because for everyone's context, if you haven't listened to the other episode we did together, Andrew's new, like I said, he just kind of really got heavy into it this year. So I think for people who are newer to investing, you probably have a lot of knowledge that people would love to listen and hear from.
Yeah. And one piece of advice would be, don't get caught up in the day to day of it, especially if you're just trying to do something for the future and make money for the future, invest. One thing, I mean, every day during the pandemic, ever since I started investing back in March, stock would move 6%. You'd want to freak out.
Yeah.
If it drops 6%, you'd want to freak out. Just let it ride. Calm down. Just let it do its thing. It's going to bounce back. So that's kind of one thing that I learned too, not to freak out. Not to jump the gun and do stupid things and sell and buy and sell and buy constantly. Just let it sit, let it do its thing.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time. I mean, I've said it on here multiple times. One of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my investing career was selling too much when COVID started. Like I honestly did. I sold too much. I was worried about not having enough cash. Not that we needed it, but just like to be safe.
Well, nobody knew.
Yeah, no one knew. And I in hindsight's 2020, so I can say I fucked up now. But you don't know. But yeah, anyway, it's a good lesson learned. For me, it was like, well, if I made it through COVID, I can make it through hopefully anything in the stock market. Because that was crazy.
You'd hope so. Yeah.
So sorry, but not to cut you off. What was your next thing you were going to say?
Yeah, no, just be patient. Let it do its thing, and no, that's really it. That's probably what I, the only thing I learned, and to cover some big hitters that I've had too. Tesla's up there.
Yeah.
Square, that was a really good stock.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Square was good, and man, Penn and DraftKings, those were amazing too.
Yeah, because you bought both of those. Did you buy them both back in March, like right away?
I bought March right away at $10 or Penn. Sorry, Penn at $10.
That's a big one. That's awesome.
And it's today it hit $98.
That's crazy. Good for you, man. That's sweet. That's awesome.
Barstool is doing huge things.
They just keep pushing the like every time I feel like they're maybe gonna start getting stale, they figure out ways to like just push the envelope, which I think is the coolest thing. Like, I don't know if you've been following, I'm sure you have, but just Dave's whole thing with like trying to save small businesses right now is like the coolest thing. Have you been following this?
Did you see how much money they've raised?
Oh, I mean, he's putting crazy amounts of money into it.
Oh, it's stupid.
Oh yeah, which goes to show how much money he's making, right? I mean, it's like for him to be like,
oh yeah.
I mean, did you see he called out Roger Goodell again today and said, that 250? Yeah. Oh my God, it's so crazy.
Dana White pitched in $100,000.
Did he really? That's so cool, man. Yeah. I mean, what a good way to use that. It
was like $2 million.
But what a cool way to use that platform and that audience to actually help people. Like, he doesn't have to. He's making so much money. Barstool's making so much money. They could have floated along all the way through COVID and just keep putting out content and done great. But he's like, no, fuck this. Like, this is not okay. I just think that's so cool. It's like,
well, it's awesome for somebody to step up.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And he's like the kind of person who, it's out of left field, and it goes to show that like all these people who should be the ones stepping up to help that haven't been, as far as like government agencies and all this shit that's becoming a disaster. It's like he's over here, making shit jokes on the internet and talking about sports, and is like, okay, I can do it. Fuck it. Like, I'll just go for it. It's so cool.
He's making our government look stupid. He's making it, he's making it look easy.
I mean, this year he's done that with the stock market, and he's done it with our government. He's basically been like, this is these people. It goes to show like big corporations, big government. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many flaws that most people don't expose. It's been cool.
He got so many people into trading with his Davey Day Trader platform. So he drew in such a new crowd.
Which is, and again, another thing that's cool. He profited from it, I'm sure, obviously, but like, it's so cool to see. Yeah. It's so cool to see though that like there's a whole group of people that probably never had gotten into it because, I mean, honestly, again, it was funny. Like the whole point of this podcast and this platform that I'm creating is like, why can we not have fun and talk about finance and make it enjoyable for people to learn, right? Like we're having drinks here, we're having fun. Like
Yep.
he's an extension of the whole concept that I've been thinking even since college of like, it's so fucking boring. Why is learning about finance so boring? He made it fun and he got all these people to jump into it because of that. So cool.
And the Barstool platform, he relates to, guys our age and stuff like that. It's so informal. And
Yeah.
he's doing these things. I mean, don't get me wrong, Sports Center and ESPN, they're great news for sports and stuff like that, but they just take it to a whole different informal level.
Yeah. And they're accessible in a way. Like I think like being able to follow like Dave or Big Cat on Twitter and like you're watching the
Yep.
same game and they're tweeting stuff out just like your buddy would. They're not
Exactly.
filtered. They're
Yeah.
talking shit. They're talking trash. It's fun. It's like you enjoy being a fan and you feel like they're just one of you. And I think that's like becoming such a big thing too, whether it's investing, sports, whatever it is. There's always been this like hierarchy of big corporate people who are like buttoned up, let's put the tie on and let's be serious. And then you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And then like people like who aren't, it's like so far removed and now it's all kind of combined. It's cool.
Yeah. Portnoy's push. It's us against the suits.
Yeah, man.
Every day.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
Did you watch the interview he did with Trump?
I did.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that was so cool. Like
It
that's
is.
cool. That's like that goes to show that just, he's been in his lane for a long time. He's continued to do things and he's authentic. You know what I mean? He's never someone you like question the quality or content he's putting out because
Exactly.
it's
Yep.
so Dave. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
That's cool
But
stuff,
no,
man.
when he started the Davy Day Trader, it pretty much took over sports gambling for a couple months because we didn't have anything to gamble on for
Right.
in March or March Madness or any of that stuff. So it took over sports gambling.
So without even trying, you just created a perfect bridge to the other thing we were going to talk about, which is gambling and online sports betting. Because
Yeah.
for everyone listening, one thing me and Andrew have been talking about is that's like an avenue that I have never gotten into. Is just like, obviously it's money, it's finances, talking about betting. So let's just jump into it because I think that's a fun thing. So I was telling you, so it's funny. I've always been really big into investing. Not always, but like that's probably a little more my forte. And I got Andrew up to speed on some stuff early on. He's gotten into sports betting way before I did. And so I was trying to like start to understand even like some of the dumb, simple things when it comes to sports betting. So maybe give everyone a little download on like your history of sports betting, maybe even just like anything that you think is, if someone has no idea how to even get involved or what it's about, like explain it, maybe just give a little rundown because you actually know a lot more than I think you do.
Yeah, no, so it's not like I'm some prolific sports gambler or anything like that. It's just fun. Actually, one of my friends from college too, he got me into it. He's the one that talked me into doing it.
Okay.
And you want to talk about taking sports to a whole new level. Like it does. And it makes you watch, pay attention, read everything.
Yeah.
Because you
Well,
got
because
money on the line.
it's kind of like investing in like not. I really don't want to call it investing because you're betting, but you're doing some research and you're trying to understand the team, the players, the situation, and you're trying to put money behind something you think is going to win, which is
Exactly.
there's a lot of parallels to investing.
And somewhat. I
Somewhat.
think sports gambling is more of a losing game.
Yeah,
No doubt
it's got
about
to
it.
be. Otherwise, it would be an industry, I guess, right?
Yeah, but it is scary addicting, in my opinion.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I started, gosh, it would have been over probably 2 years ago, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
I started with DraftKings. And in my opinion, DraftKings is by far the best platform, I think. And I think you messed with FanDuel a little bit.
I've only been on I still haven't gotten into draft. I had money on FanDuel from something a long time ago, so I
Yeah.
just like continue. I still have money in there. I've not done enough to. I think I've pretty much bet on the Bears and the Colts. That's it. That's all I've done.
I would say rule number one, don't ever bet on the teams that you like.
Oh, okay. And
because
why
it
is that?
makes you hate them.
Oh,
If they
yes.
mess up
Okay.
or something, yeah, it makes you hate them.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
I've betted on Purdue basketball too many times, and I'll never again because it's so disappointing every
I feel
time.
like you got to just bet against them. And unfortunately, like the safest bet when it comes to Purdue is against Purdue.
It seemed that way when I was betting on them.
Right? I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know.
but no, I mean it's just gosh, it's so much fun and it's so addicting. And I was the same way with sports gambling as I was with the stock market
Okay.
because at first I'd be like, real scared. I'd put in $1. I'd put $1 on this game,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, I'm getting a little more comfortable. Let's put 5 and 10 and 20, and it just keeps
Ooh.
going,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and once you get more
What's the
comfortable,
most you've bet on a game?
what's the most I've ever bet on a game? I think 50,
Oh,
which is just
damn.
chump change. Some of these guys are throwing down thousands, hundreds of thousands.
I'm not gonna name him because I don't know if he's ever listened to this, but I have a neighbor, great guy. Like love him. He's the shit. He owns a bunch of car dealerships. And he put on Facebook one time. He shares it. It's not like this is a secret. He put down 40 grand on a game.
Yikes!
And I remember seeing that he won. He hit. And it was like, I forget, I think he made like 120.
Yeah.
I just remember being like, oh my God, I would be sweating
Huh,
watching that
yeah,
game. I'd be
yeah.
sweating.
Oh, I'd be a mess.
Like that, I'm with you. I've done like the dollar, a couple bucks, five. I think
Yeah.
I got Kelly involved, so me and Kelly make a lot of our bets together. And we did a $5 game. I remember I was like, "Whew, feel like we're really putting some money down." That's crazy. So
I
so
had.
what are like the big things you focus on? Because I mean, if you've done basketball, I've done NFL most. I think it's all I've done is NFL.
Yeah, I absolutely hate betting on college basketball because
Okay.
you never know how a team's going to shoot on any given night. You
Now,
know,
does college basketball pay better odds than like the NFL?
not necessarily.
Okay.
Not
Because I do feel
necessarily.
like college basketball is probably the biggest wild card as far as sports.
It is.
I feel like college
It's
basketball is like the one where like I mean any team could show up on any night and upset somebody.
exactly. Don't get me
Way more
wrong.
than like college football.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's betting on college basketball is awesome, but betting the spread on college basketball is very hard.
So let's pause there, time out, just to explain to people. If you're someone who has no idea what we're talking about,
Yeah.
so the things that I've always seen, okay, when it comes to betting, there's usually like three major options. There's the spread, the
Yep.
money line, and the over under, right?
Right.
And you can bet on any of those three. So can you explain to everybody what the spread is? That's what you just said.
So spread, if a team, so if it's so say Duke's playing North Carolina, and it's Duke minus 6.5. Duke's favored minus 6.5. 6.5 points. So they'd have to win by if you take that bet on Duke to win by 6.5, they'd technically have to win by 7. But that's
Got
what you're
it.
saying. They'll
So
win by
yeah,
7 or greater.
right. So it's
And then if
basically
you took
giving someone a head start.
yes, and if you
Okay.
took North Carolina plus 6.5, you're banking on them losing by less than 6
Okay.
or winning.
Or winning. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
Yes. Yep.
So it's either like it's like giving someone it's giving one of the teams points before the game
Right.
starts.
Essentially.
That's
Yeah.
a spread. The money line is just straight who wins and loses, right?
Yes, and you're not going to win near as much there.
Okay, so the odds or aka like how much you can win is less.
Yeah. So say if you bet money line on a like that Duke North Carolina game or something, for example, if you bet money line and who knows what the given odds are, you'd put $1 down, you'd probably win like 10 cents,
Okay.
depending on the odds, but
Sure.
you're not going to win much.
Right.
Whereas if you bet the spread, you would win, $1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
And
Okay.
same thing with the over unders too. It's treated more like spread as far as payout.
So in the over under is the total score of the two teams.
Yep, over under, for example, Duke North Carolina game over under 142.
Got it. So if the two scores equal 142 or more and you bet the
Yep.
over, you won. If you
Yep.
said under, then you just score less. Got it. Okay. Got it.
I mean,
That's pretty straightforward.
I've had games come down to a missed free throw. Or, like I used to bet a lot of NBA games
Yeah.
and they do something stupid and dribble it out, instead of,
So
throwing up a shot.
does that though make you feel like there is always something extra going on? Because that's crazy to me when it's that like Vegas is that close to calling it. and then someone dribbles it out. It's like, hold on a minute.
I
Like,
mean,
especially in basketball. Basketball seems like one of the easier sports to like actually like throw the game. And I'm
it's
not
horrible.
accusing anyone of that, but like it kind of is crazy when you think about how close some games are.
I've been in the living room last winter and just lost my mind over NBA games. I mean, they just decide to dribble out the clock or something, you know? And it just, that's the things that make you go crazy in
Oh,
sports
I
gambling.
bet.
And it makes you wonder sometimes, like some things are so surreal. Like, did he really just miss that free throw? You know, the
Okay.
guy shoots
Yeah.
95% and he missed his free throw at the end of the game and the over under didn't hit, you know?
Yeah.
Or
Because of
you
the
bet
free
the
throw.
exactly. Yeah.
That's where, I mean, that's what I'm telling you. That's where sometimes basketball worries me when it comes to betting, because I feel like if there ever was some like conspiracy shit where someone could throw a game, it would be basketball. Like football, you need a lot of people aligned to like get a touchdown, for example, right? You
Oh yeah.
need the quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, whatever. Plus, you need some defensive people to give it up. Like you
Yeah.
need basketball. It's like, I don't know.
See, I have
Maybe
questions about the NBA anyway.
I do too,
Yeah.
100%. It was
I've
a shock to me, to be completely honest with you. I don't follow the NBA very closely anymore. I did not know we were already back in gear for another season. I saw everyone posting about it. I'm like, wait, what? We're
yesterday.
back? I'm like, wait, didn't we
Yesterday.
just finish this thing? We
They
just
did.
finished a season. We're back at it again. But now they're traveling from stadium to stadium. And
Yep.
I'm like,
Yep.
huh.
Don't get me wrong. NBA players, like, they're some of the most athletic dudes in the world.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, the way they play defense, it is absolutely horrific.
It's a joke. Did you
Yeah,
see LeBron's ring he
I did.
posted? Yeah,
I
that's
did.
pretty wild. Yeah, they got
It is
that's
wild.
some bling.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But talking more about sports gambling, too, you know, and if you really dive in deep, you know, you can
I have
do,
not. So you tell me what I'm missing.
you can do over under in the first half.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Spread in the
right.
first half. You know, you can break it down and do stuff like that too. And you know, the prop bets. So
Yeah, give everyone a lowdown on prop bets. Prop bets are
so
like who wins the coin toss type of shit, right?
yeah, like that. They do that for the Super Bowl and how long the national anthem is. You know, Barstool Sports, they do a huge thing about the national anthem
Yeah.
every year for the Super
Well,
Bowl.
but it's funny you say that because that's actually what got me into this whole thing. I remember you were the one that was like, "Oh, one day I called you and I was saying I want to try it," and you were
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, you should bet on the national anthem." I'm like, "What are you
Mhm.
talking about?" And you're like, "Oh, listen to the Barstool thing," and I listened to it, and like they were all going through like previous years of how long the national anthem's
I
taken, and
can't remember
they
who
did a whole
sung.
podcast about it. They did a whole
Oh, I know.
podcast
I
about
can't
how
remember
long it
who
should
sung it.
last.
Was it Demi Lovato? Maybe she did the
That
national
sounds
anthem. I
right.
could be
That might be
totally
right.
off base. Anyway, she's sung the national anthem at some things before. So Barstool Sports dove in and literally they're like in 2015 she sung the national anthem at this event and it was this long. And, you know, in 2017 she did this and it was
Yeah.
this long. So they had it broken down or whatever. Come to find out she hit the under by like 6 seconds, was just, you know, shocked everybody because usually in national anthem Super Bowl you're going to drag it out.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Because
So,
it's like you're shot on this crazy
so
stage.
everybody, you know, everybody was shook and everybody lost because everybody bet the over. But
Well, because that's what Barstool does, right? Doesn't Barstool always say like life's too short to bet the under?
yeah, life's too short to bet the under.
Yeah,
Always
so
bet
you
the
always bet the over. Yeah, got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is
Which
so funny.
yeah, but prop bets, you know, like players, is Aaron Jones from the Green Bay Packers going to rush for 135 yards this game? Over under, you know.
Got it.
Aaron
Now,
Rodgers
just
over under.
between you and me, because no one's listening to this, obviously, which is a joke. Is do you think some of that is like, I don't know. It's so funny to me to think if you're a professional athlete, you're making a ton of money, but like when there's like obviously every game has specific prop bets, like I'm sure in their contract, and I don't know, you know this more than I. Is there something against them? Like they can't bet on themselves, can they? Can like
Actually, where did I listen to a podcast several months ago about a guy gambling
like
on himself?
can he? The example you just used, could he bet on himself legally and say like, yeah, I'm gonna go for more than 135?
I don't know. I'm not sure about those
Isn't that
rules.
funny?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Or you
don't know
could
how.
say like, no, I'm gonna go less, and you get 134, and you stop a yard short and run out of bounds. I don't know.
I surely you cannot bet on yourself.
I would think there'd have to be something against that. I just this is where me and sports betting, I've always been a little questionable because, okay, good example. When I compare sports betting, and they're not the same thing, but sports betting to investing, every company on the planet wants to go up and up and up. So the one thing about investing is the company in itself you're investing in, the interest is always to grow, right? Like it's always to grow market cap, which is directly correlated to the stock price. But sports betting is not. In sports betting, there's so many specific things that, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's funny.
I'm going to pop this beer. It's going to be noisy. But did you hear? Well, it's not did you hear? It actually happened.
Oh, here we
go. The Purdue versus Minnesota game.
This is football or basketball?
Football.
Okay.
The pass interference call. If anybody paid attention to this game,
yes. Well, and for background, me and Andrew both went to Purdue, so we were roommates at Purdue. We definitely have Purdue loyalty ties. Yes, of course.
So this could be totally irrelevant to 90% of the audience. But anyway, Purdue game. Not that anybody watches Purdue football, but
if you
Purdue
do,
versus Minnesota game.
Yes. Well, this is the one that was like egregious.
The what?
This is like the egregious call.
Yes.
At the end of the game. Yeah.
That's what the imaginary pass interference.
Oh, 100%. The only thing I will say, you're right. Most people probably don't give a shit about Purdue on here, but that call went viral. I mean, even Barstool was talking about it. Like it was one of the most ridiculous calls anyone's ever seen in college football.
I think DraftKings, I'm pretty sure, refunded people's money.
They did. Yeah. They refunded money on people who bet for Purdue,
which is awesome. A great.
But it had never happened before.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah. But the good thing about, I don't know why we're talking this makes me think of free money.
This is what podcasts are for. We just talk shit and go over.
This makes me think of free money, but not Barstool. DraftKings is so good about if you place 3 $5 bets this week, you'll get $15 free on us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They'll do that too, so that's nice. So you'll hurry up and place 3 $5 bets, and then you'll get your $15. So they run promotions like that all the time.
They get people back. I mean, it's a whole thing to get people to come back and keep putting money in their accounts. I'm sure. Yeah,
exactly. And they run specials here and there and stuff. And last year they ran. It was an IU game versus Penn State. And it was like the 51st time that they played each other or something like that.
Okay.
So if you bet $50 and it was just stupid. If IU, I can't remember, or if the over hit over 51 total points, that you would get free $50 if you bet on the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I'm like, that's a no-brainer.
You're like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, bet $50 and you won $50.
Right. Oh, that's cool. So that's cool. I guess that's something that you get in sports betting. You probably don't get in investing very often. You can get a free stock if you sign up with Robinhood, my link. That's about it. That's all you get.
I'd help you out there, but I'm already signed up.
Nah, that's good. I think you might have actually used my link to sign up. But that's funny. Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, do you have any suggestions for people who want to get involved? Like, I think for me, when I got involved, you were like, you did say this. You were like, don't bet on your favorite teams. Look at the numbers. If there's a game that just seems weird that you think doesn't make sense, like that's probably the one to start with. Start small. Anything else? Like,
gosh, there's not any really groundbreaking advice other than just be smart about it. Don't put $50 on the Jets to beat somebody this weekend. You know what I mean? It's just
the Jets suck. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they did win last week, right? Yeah.
Which is hilarious, right? Because they just throw their first round draft pick basically away.
Oh, they toss it away. But I think Jaguars
what's his name, right?
Too.
They would have
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. When they have had Trevor, that's crazy.
Yeah.
If I was the Jaguars, I would sit every starter.
Yeah.
The rest of the season and just take Trevor Lawrence for what it's worth.
Be the smart thing to do.
Yeah. Right. It's crazy.
Yeah. One thing I got back into this year too is fantasy football.
Oh, did you? Or like a legit league?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How's that been going?
Great. I'm in the championships and I'm pumped about it.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Is it for
never
money?
Been there in my life?
Really? I've done one. I've been to one and I lost. I've
Yeah.
finished second. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first year in like almost 10 years that I haven't done fantasy football like that.
That's addicting as well.
Oh, it is. I mean, I noticed it. I was talking to Kelly the other night. I said, this year has been the first year in, probably 10 years. I have not watched very much football this year, like versus previous years. And I think part of it might be because I haven't been doing fantasy football. Like definitely could be part of it.
It's my favorite. I love NFL so much.
It's
So
the
I,
best.
I watch it every single weekend. Like that's my thing. I don't care
Yeah.
who's playing.
No, that's what's cool about the NFL. It's like every
Yeah,
team's fun to watch. There's always a
exactly.
game that's good.
Unless it's the Jets.
Unless it's the
Jets,
Jets.
Jaguars.
Yeah, they suck. They suck.
Yeah, they do.
It's funny. Moving to Chicago, we don't have cable. We cut the cord, so I don't have CBS.
Yeah.
So I never can watch the Colts.
Yep.
So I just inherently watch all the Bears games and then become a bigger Bears fan. But yeah, I never get to see AFC games. I pretty much watch NFC games, and then I can see like Thursday night and Monday night. But we don't watch a ton of it. We don't watch a ton of NFL. I do when the weekend. I think the funny thing has been with COVID and the extra time at home for me at least because I'm working from home. It's like I feel like sometimes Sundays go by and I'm like Sundays used to be such a like end of the week day to just like chill out, watch football. It doesn't feel that way this year to me. It's just kind of different. I don't know why. It's funny.
Yeah. No, I put a lot of time into watching the NFL, so it hasn't changed for me a bit.
Well, you got money. It sounds like you got a lot of money on the line too. Now, do you invest more or you gamble more?
Oh, I invest more.
Yeah, good. All right, good.
Yeah,
Good
certainly.
answer. Good
No,
answer.
sports gambling is just a little tiny side thing.
Okay, good. Do you
Yeah.
know anyone who's done well with sports gambling?
Um, a couple guys have had some success, but I mean, you have to be so lucky. I feel
That's what
like.
I think. Yeah, it's like it all comes down to that's like just pure luck.
Like, is there some skill in it? Yeah, probably, but mostly luck. Probably
Mostly.
90-10.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. The other thing I want to talk about was you got to tell everybody. So you're one of the only people I know of, at least, that's been on the podcast that's been around COVID. So
Mm.
what happened? How was it? Well, we don't know if
Yeah.
you got it officially, but your wife did. So
Yeah,
most
she did.
likely you did.
She got it from her boss at work, and no, I mean, it wasn't bad. It's not what we thought it would be, for sure.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's not this big bad scary thing that everybody portrays it to be, and I'm sure affects people differently, and there's different
Right.
what would you call strands of it, I guess,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
But no, it definitely it wasn't bad, and I was around my wife every single day, and I never got it.
Huh. That's funny.
Or that I know
Or at
of.
least had like great symptoms or whatever. Are you
Absolutely.
guys how are you guys thinking about like the vaccine and all that stuff?
See how it plays out.
Yeah, that's kind of how
I
I
would
am.
I
My
wouldn't say
sister
we.
got it.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she got it
Yeah,
like 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
Felt fine. But then I also know I have a buddy of mine, his wife got it in Chicago, and she felt super shitty. Like she felt sick as hell for a day.
It's probably just like the flu shot, same thing.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. You never know.
Which I've never had ever,
You've never had the flu shot?
never once.
Really?
No,
Oh
I never
wow.
really, I never really felt the need.
Maybe, yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, we grew up very different, but you being in Winnemac, maybe, you kind of in a smaller town, maybe that's, less of a
Maybe,
need. I
but I
don't
mean,
know.
there's plenty of people here in this town too that get it.
Yeah,
Every
sure.
year they
Sure.
get it. So I don't know. It's just I get a minor cold once a year, and that's it for
Yeah.
me.
Well, it's gonna be weird. I mean, that's that whether you're thinking about investing just in general. I mean, it was funny. I posted a podcast. I kind of did a solo podcast like a week or so ago where I was just thinking, it was kind of me thinking out loud, and I was talking about how it's weird now that the vaccine came out. It was like we've been talking about it forever, right? We've been talking about the vaccine since it was, since COVID became a thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But now that all of a sudden it felt like within a week it went from like, okay, we have it, it got approved, it's out, and we're getting distributed. Like it was such a quick flip of the switch
It-
that I did an episode about, like if you're an investor, how can you like stop and take a deep breath and think about what the next year, 5 years, 10 years might look like. It's hard. You don't know. And I don't know, obviously. But what are things for you now that you've been investing for, 8 or 9 months that you're thinking are good things to invest in now? Because I think it's slowly going to change, right? Like, I know I saw something today about a place here in Chicago that we go to our doctor, and they were like, yeah, but we expect by late spring, early summer of this year that like it'll be available to the public. The vaccine will. And it's like, well, once you get the vaccine, you'd think a lot of things go back to normal, right? Then that's the hope. So what are things for you that you're thinking about now as far as like what are things good to put money in now that might pay off in a year from now?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think any of this stuff really necessarily has to do with coronavirus or the vaccine or anything like that. But, some things that I particularly would pay attention to would be, the electric vehicle market.
Yeah,
I think it,
you're bullish on that, aren't you?
yes, I am. I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to continue to grow. And, Tesla's a monster, but I think there's going to be other companies up and coming too. I think there's still room to grow with Workhorse and Nikola and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And look at Bloom Energy and Plug Power. I don't know
Oh,
if
all
you,
right. Plugged a couple stocks here. I love it.
yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar with either of those
No,
two.
I actually don't know either of those.
Yeah, so basically, it's components within a car, electric car, and it's charging stations too.
Okay.
Electric
Yeah.
charging stations. So, and I invested in those as well about the middle of the summer, just because I, got to look and I'm like, what's the components of these cars and things that these cars are going to need,
Okay. Yeah.
and Plug Power and Bloom Energy, they're putting these things up around the world, but they just exploded. I mean, they
Did
were
they? Nice.
five, yeah, they were $5 in the middle of the summer, and now they're 35, $40.
Wow. Good for you, man.
So they're just taking off. They're just growing like crazy. So that's some things you need to pay, or at least I'm going to pay attention to. And
Yeah.
invest in, and I keep having hope for airlines and stuff too to bounce back, which they have a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think all the way, but I've kind of lost faith in them. But I do think they're going to bounce back and hit where they originally were.
Yeah. Do you?
Um,
That's a big question that I've posed on this podcast is so personally in business, the meetings, like I use the example of I used to go to Amazon once a year out in Seattle. We had like a yearly meeting we'd go to for the brand I work for. And it used to be in person. I would get on a plane, I'd fly out in an evening, I'd have to get a hotel, I'd get up in the morning, and it was an hour meeting. I'd have an hour meeting, and I had to take an Uber back to the airport, fly all the way back to Chicago. So it's 2 flights, a hotel, and a couple Ubers, and my really it's like 2 days shot, and for an hour meeting. And now this year it's like on Zoom. And one of the things I've been wondering, and I don't have a super tight perspective, but it's interesting to think about. If you think about the airline industry, I don't know the exact number, but a high percentage of people who travel, like the highest percentage of general airline travelers are business. Like us going to Florida for spring break is like a
right.
small little percent of the people who fly.
Yep.
And so if I'm curious after COVID, how many businesses stick with like the Zoom meetings and how many go back to in person. It's going to be interesting.
I mean, you know how much money's saved with these guys not traveling around and then just doing Zoom meetings?
It's unbelievable. And it's time. Like you and I tonight, we can't be in person. We hopped on an hour Zoom call to do this podcast.
Exactly.
Whereas if you were someone who wanted to come do this podcast in person, it would take a lot. It would be investing 2 days or a day at
Exactly.
least.
Yeah.
So personally, that's something that I'm trying to wrap my head around.
It's huge.
Oh, sorry, you cut out there a little bit. What'd you say? Say it again.
I said time and money. You just can't get it back.
Right.
It's so much easier to do these calls.
100%. So that's something for me when you say airlines. I think that's something I'm a little more bearish on. I personally think the travel industry is kind of changing permanently to some degree. Not like all the way, but I do think like some of those, maybe something where you need to go out and see someone once a year and it's a big thing. Like, yeah, that'll probably still happen. But maybe like there used to be meetings where we pop up and it's like we need to fly to, Austin, Texas for a day for this meeting. And it's like, do we though? Can we just hop on a Zoom and handle the meeting and go back? It's gonna be interesting. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but
No, I agree. I
so that
agree.
could be long-term interesting impacts to that. What about like, how do you think, and this is something I think it's fun to talk about, what about things that are, before COVID were things that people paid really close attention to, like oil and currencies and stuff? Do you look at that at all? Or do you pay
You
attention at
know,
all to
I
that?
oh I do. I was pretty. Well, I paid attention to oil early on. When I first got started in investing. Um, I just it never really did anything, and
Yeah.
I haven't checked it for a couple months, so I don't know what it's done. But I think with the new administration coming in the office and the things that they're talking about and things that they want to do, I don't know if oil is going to be put on the back burner or what. So it's hard
Yeah.
telling what they're going
Sure.
to do. So that'd probably be off my radar. I would think.
Sure.
I
Right.
just things you really need to focus on technology and where's the stuff going in the next 10 years, where are we
Yeah.
going to be at
Right.
you know
Right.
like instead of hotels, look at the Airbnb. They just went public, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Yeah. They're newly on the market, man.
They are. DoorDash, went public about the same
Right.
time Airbnb did. They haven't really done anything impressive as far as price yet, but I mean, I think stuff like that is things to watch and keep on your radar, the
Yeah.
technology side of things. But
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that. I know I keep telling people the safest bets to me have always been, I feel like my grouping of investments, if I don't have anything I'm like hot on that I need to put money into, it's Amazon, Tesla,
yep,
Google, and then recently it's been like Zoom, Slack, Visa, Mastercard, like
yep,
Shopify, Spotify. What are like the tech things that in my opinion are just going to keep going up and up and up? Like I
yep,
think it's funny, the more things move to e-commerce, obviously Shopify's huge. Shopify's now the second largest e-commerce platform on the planet behind Amazon. They passed eBay. They're bigger than Etsy.
wow, I didn't
They're
know that.
bigger than Google. They're huge, man. I mean, there's
Yeah.
more websites are now built on Shopify than anything else. So there's that one. Yeah, and then like if you're buying things online on websites like that, like obviously your credit card's a huge component. So whether it's
Right.
Square, whether it's Stripe, whether it's Mastercard, Visa, all those are going to benefit from that. So
Absolutely.
those are also huge things.
Yep.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. What does 2021 look like for you? I mean, obviously 2020 was like getting into investing and kind of kicking it off. What are you hoping to kind of accomplish in 2021
Yeah.
and what's it look
No,
like
we're
for
just
you?
gonna keep investing, and stuff like that. And I don't think I'm gonna make any huge contributions, but a little bit here each month. Treat it like you said as a savings account
Yeah.
and try to keep building that for the future. That's pretty much it for on the investment side, and kind of a newfound thing too that I'm getting into is real estate.
Yeah, right. So how are you getting into that? You want to give anyone a little lowdown on that?
Yeah. So I started taking the course about a month ago, and you have to do, and I'm not sure how it works in other states, and I can speak for Indiana. Indiana, you have to do 90 hours of course time, and then you have to pass several exams at the end of the course, to get your certificate of completion, and then you move on to two exams, a state portion and a national portion. You have to pass those, and then once you do that, you have to be assigned to a broker or a
Right.
brokerage company, and then you can start your career, or you can do it whatever you want. If you're just you want to get your real estate license just because, you can go have the statuses on the sign, for however long
Sure.
you want. But so we're going to see where that takes us to. Hopefully some exciting things. Don't want to talk about too much yet, but
Yeah. How
yeah.
do you feel about real estate in general? I've actually had this conversation with a few people. How do you feel about it in general, just with, COVID and what it's done to markets and done to people's lives? Is that been a benefit, a detriment? Do you think what's your thoughts just generally on real estate over the next year or two?
Talking to some guys about the real estate market and how it is, and where it's going to be, next year and stuff, especially with, office, presidency changing hands and stuff like that. And, a lot of guys said that they've seen it all, they've been through it all. And the real estate market right now in the past couple of years has been the best it's ever been. And they feel like it's kind of going to stay right there for, at least a couple more years,
Yeah.
I know the real estate market fluctuates quite a bit, but no, they're thinking that it's going to stay pretty stable. And, talking to a lot of guys and a lot of agents, they're saying that, last year was literally the best year that they've ever had.
Wow. That's
It's
wild. Like 2019 or
2020, like
Oh,
during all,
really?
yeah, they said it's the best year that they've ever had, the busiest they've ever been, the most sales they've ever got. It's good to hear.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know about all types of real estate. I know for example, residential, I can't tell you how many people, and I know we live in very different places, but like here in Chicago, I can't tell you how many people were like renting an apartment in the city. And then COVID hit, and it's like that's the last place you want to be is in a
Oh,
big
no.
city paying a high rent. Like you can't do shit. You're stuck in this little apartment. And so now
Exactly.
people are like, how can I take that money and go buy a property out in the suburbs
Right.
and have space? And so I can see how it's funny how that's kind of, people are losing jobs and, it's a sad thing and it's horrible. And, all that is happening too. But it does seem like there's this whole transition out of city. It'll be interesting once the vaccine's kind of in place, what cities look like.
Well,
Because
what about these commercial office spaces?
yeah, like, and that's kind of what I was getting at with like even airlines is like, I mean, even at my work, we're talking about going back once things are safe. There's no timeline. The thought of having 200 people in an office in a city feels like forever away right now to me,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if things will be changed forever out of this. Personally, if I was a betting man, I would say it's going to be different. I don't think, I think for how long a lot of us have been working from home, it would be a very strange thing overnight to then go back to like having to get on a train, commute to the city, be in an office all day, commute home. Like everyone's used to this fluid work environment where you're working, but you can definitely get up from your desk, go get something done you need to get done, and come back and finish. Like it's all about getting shit done now,
Right.
whereas it used to be having your ass in a seat for a certain amount of time a day, which
Yep.
is funny. You think about just efficiency and everything. Like it's way better to have a workforce who like you're worried about getting stuff done, and it's not necessarily the amount of time in sitting in an office space. So I don't know. Yeah, commercial real estate, that's the one I'd be worried about if I was involved in, is just, are people really going to need to pay this crazy amount of money to have their, offices set up in a physical location?
When you can just do it at home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I
I don't
think
know.
things like residential will be fine. I would think things like, out by you where it's like larger land moves should
I
be
think so.
fine. Yeah.
Yep. And
I'm curious on cities though. Like I was talking to a neighbor the other day. He was telling me that a friend of his, their firm is based out of like the Sears, Willis, whatever you want to call it, tower in Chicago. And he's
yep.
like, they're getting out of their lease. It's about to be up and it's a 10-year lease. And he's like, who's gonna like what company right now is gonna jump in and be like, oh, we'll take it?
Nobody.
No. But
No,
it's gonna be interesting to see what happens to these cities, like a Chicago and New York and LA.
it will.
It's gonna be interesting because they're
Yeah.
ghost towns right now.
That's what I've heard.
And a lot of these
Yeah.
small mom and pop places, they're not going to be able to survive much
No.
longer. I don't think through a winter. I think like you see it in New York, people talk about it a lot. Chicago is the same. Like you have these small mom and pop places where no one's there every day to buy
Yep.
whatever they're selling.
It's hard on places like around here, these restaurants and stuff. It's tough,
Are you guys open at least?
So our county was kind of a hot spot there like the last month. So we shut down in in-house dining or whatever you want to call it for a couple weeks there, but it's limited capacity now. So
Okay. You guys
trying
were
to
like
get
one of the last in Indiana to get a case. I remember that was the whole thing. And now it's
that
the other way.
was funny. Yeah, we were like the down to the last three counties to get a
Yeah.
case.
I remember you were texting me. You're like, hey, we're down to the final four.
Yeah, and then now we're a hot spot. So
It's weird, man. It's a weird thing. It really is, but it's strange and it's interesting to hear, I've heard all ends of the gamut. Some people are saying you don't notice much as far as symptoms go. I know plenty of young people who have been really sick. It's weird. It's like all over the place.
just everybody handles it differently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But no, I think it's weird times, and back to the real estate thing real quick. Once I get more involved, I'd love to come back on and talk more about it. The more I learn and
Definitely.
stuff. So
Yeah, man, let's do it. Thank you for coming on today. This was really fun. It was funny for everyone listening. I've been talking to Andrew obviously constantly, but we were talking over the last few weeks and I was saying how we're getting closer and closer to episode 100. And since he was the first person I had on, I was like, I got to get him on for a
yeah,
100. We're having this late at night. We're having some drinks, having fun. And I was like, it'd be fun to have you back on, do episode 100 together, and see where this podcast goes. But definitely, man, when you get up and running, this podcast is here all the time, so we'll have you back on, and we'll talk more detailed about real estate.
yeah, it'd be something else for us to talk about. Hopefully today was beneficial to some people, but
Yeah, man. Yeah, it always is. I think
yeah,
getting into investing. This is a good time of year for people to kind of listen, reset, especially when it comes to investing. The sports gambling stuff I think is interesting. I know a lot of people that have made a lot of money. I know people who have lost a lot of money, and it's just funny how, like, no matter what, I mean, both those things you're putting money into, and one of them is for better for worse. It's for long term, hopefully gains. One's for fun. They're
yeah,
both can be fun, but no, I appreciate all the knowledge. You know a lot more about that than I do, so I appreciate all
yeah.
the sharing there.
I wouldn't recommend sports gambling over investing in the stock market, but it's fun if you want to relax a little bit and throw some money down on some games. It makes it fun.
Love it, man. Love it.
Yeah.
Cool, buddy. Well, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure, man. Thank you again. I'll have this up hopefully right before New Year's Eve. We're gonna have this be like the last episode of the year. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming on, man. This was fun. Cheers.
Ab-
One last
you bet.
cheers.
Yep.
Here we go. Hell yeah. This one was way better than the first one. So
I think so. I
love
think
it.
we've come a long way. Yeah.
For sure, man. For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, buddy. Well, thank you so much. Everyone, thanks for listening. And we'll be back with a new episode soon. Awesome, buddy. Well, thank you.
Yep. Thanks again.
See you, buddy.
See you.